I was told I was wasting NHS time by the crisis services, and by that it really impacted me on how I reached out for help, and I didn't want to reach out for help, and I felt very sort of alone and isolated by that.
I think the biggest negative experience I had around my mental health was when I actually went to get help from a psychiatrist. She actually turned around to me and she said that I was an enigma because she'd never seen anybody that was male suffering with an eating disorder.
I remember somebody within the community mental health team came out to saw me and I was very unwell, and then said they needed to speak to a psychiatrist. So I waited for hours alone in my flat not knowing what was going on, and she then phoned me back later to tell me that my safety and my happiness was my responsibility and that there was nothing that they could do.
I was already suffering with self-loathing really, and that made it even worse because I just thought that it was all my fault.
I think it's quite sad because it's almost become for myself like normal and expected to be treated stigmatisingly and discriminated against when talking about like my mental illness, or even just when people find out that I'm mentally unwell. Like, that's almost become normal to me, but actually that's so wrong and it shouldn't be that way.
A lot of people don't understand complex mental illness, mental health problems, and I think that means that we need to make more awareness, and we need to be talking about illnesses that aren't usually talked about.
I think the biggest situation where somebody really kind of got it right was like my dad kind of opening up to me, and like he said like you shouldn't be ashamed to speak about your mental health, and I always thought that he was kind of the one that I was going to struggle kind of speaking to, because he kind of grew up in an area that he never really spoke about his problems. He always used to say to me that a man doesn't cry, that he just leaves his tears in his pillow and things like that. So for him kind of helping me at that time, that really helped me.
When I started volunteering, and my manager for my volunteering, she was great. She took time to get to know me outside my mental health, but more importantly she saw me as a whole person. So I find that a lot of the time in mental health services in particular, you're often put into boxes and treated accordingly to those boxes, whereas this person, she didn't try to decompartmentalise me into different boxes. She just saw me as a whole.
So when they listen to you and take your views, it really helps because you feel like you're listened to, you feel valued, it makes you feel as if you're being treated as a person, and that's the most important thing.
One simple thing that people can do to tackle the stigma surrounding mental illness is to open up the conversation about mental health, and to do that again and again regularly, because often when we first open up a conversation about mental health in places like the workplace or within education, we might not get a great reaction the first time round, but don't let that dishearten you, because talking about things that we're not used to talking about, or talking about things that hold a lot of stigma, is often uncomfortable at first. But you starting that conversation and letting people have a space to talk about how they're feeling is actually incredibly important, and over time will tackle the stigma around mental health.
I think just raising awareness as much as you possibly can, I feel that that's the biggest thing that you can actually do.
Talk, ask people how they are, ask people what they're feeling. Just don't be afraid to ask someone how they are and listen to their answer.